evening, everyone. I'm Frank Novak, and this is Point of Reference. Tonight, we give you a brief introduction to each candidate running for office in the city of Haverhill, incumbent as well as newcomer, in an effort for you to get to know them a little better and help you to decide who to vote for on Election Day, November 7th. We're very proud that almost 100% of the candidates took us up on our invitation to help you become a more informed voter. Incumbent City Councilor John Michitson is with me right now. He is also currently the president of the Haverhill City Council, running for re-election. Welcome to the program, John.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. It's always a pleasure.
You know, how is this new upcoming election that you have to be running for different from the previous ones?
Well, I think that back when I first started, back in the 1990s, I had some ideas about how to get us into the new economy, the innovation economy. I had some ideas about how we needed to do strategic planning and performance-based budgeting. And the difference,
come to fruition?
The difference is that I was the lone voice back then, and now there's a consensus occurring on both of those. And a good example is right here.
So you've laid the foundation.
UMass Lowell, I'm working with them on their innovation hub. And the whole idea there is to grow startups into Haverhill's businesses of the future. And 20 years ago, it was a little bit hard to get people on board. And so to me, that's a big difference. I like that we're finally getting to that stage where I think we're going to start looking more long-term in the city. And we're going to pay more attention to getting the jobs of the future into Haverhill.
It seems as though back then, people didn't know what they didn't know. And you were able to bring that forth and bring that to the surface and move that forward, no?
Yes, in fact, I have, I've had some good disagreements, positive disagreements with former mayors and city councilors, over the years. And, I've had the...
Well, that's where you get different points of view, where people are able to modify their opinions, not only your own, but maybe the party that maybe has a disagreement with you sees something different, so that you can move ahead. And I mean, if it's let's put it this way: if politics is the art of compromise, you don't want to have somebody or some idea compromise. You want to try to move things forward.
Yes, and as you remember, my father had a lot of perseverance, and I'm glad that I inherited that from him.
Okay, good
because
genes.
It requires a lot of perseverance if you want to stay focused and not just go along for the ride.
If innovation, if you wanted to be part of the innovation nation and bring that forward into the city of Haverhill and move that forward as well, what other compelling things are confronting the city of Haverhill that need attention, that you would be able to focus on and bring maybe some new ideas toward? What do you think those are, John?
Well, I think that the two areas that are holding us back, other than economic development itself, being proactive and out there trying to bring businesses in, the two things that I believe are holding us back are public education, and a lot of it is a perception, that the scores aren't high in Haverhill. And then secondly, the numerous shootings that we've had this year, public safety. So we need to tackle those two issues in order to get people that want to move their businesses to Haverhill. They don't want to come into a place where their families can't get the education that they'd like. And believe me, Haverhill does provide good education, I believe, to the top 66% or so. It's the bottom 33 that are very, very difficult. And you can't really, put all the onus on the teachers, because in the last 3 years, and this is state data now, right off the state website. 3 years ago, we had 37% of the families of the kids in the district were economically disadvantaged.
37%?
37% economically. Frank?
Yeah.
Today, it's 45%.
Wow.
So that's what's happened.
It's going the wrong way.
In the last 3 years. So what does that do? It makes it more difficult for the teachers, and it makes it more difficult for public safety and police. And that's why this year I fought hard for 5 additional police officers, which we ended up getting. We got the votes that we needed on the city council to do that.
What do you, if the economy overall, nationally and regionally, is supposed to be going up and is supposed to be better, why is it that that number has increased from 37 to 45%?
Well, I think a lot of it might be those two issues that we just talked about, those two issues themselves, right? Some families don't want to move to Haverhill because they have a perception of, a bad perception of the school system and a bad perception of the crime that we have.
If we talk about education just in the short period of time that we happen to have,
yes.
If Haverhill right now ranks of 351 cities and towns near the bottom of that list as far as spending per pupil, and where recently in the past we were about mid-range, but now we're toward the bottom of the list. And I know that throwing money at a situation is not always the answer, but when it just shows that I think are we investing less in our students?
Well, I think this year especially, the mayor did provide more funding. There was a lot of pressure to do that. You know, he as the leader of the city has a lot of tough decisions that he needs to make. So that's never easy. But the real victory that we can have, right, is training our students, right, for STEM, for the science, technology, engineering, and math jobs that are going to be open over the next, 2, 3, 4 decades.
Because that's
right?
the direction we're going.
That is the direction that we're going. So I believe we should be investing more in that and have equality, parity across all our school systems. I want all of our kids to have that access.
Do you think the byproduct of that, in doing that also as a byproduct, helps solve and reduce the crime issue?
All three are intertwined.
Okay.
And that's really the point that I try to make when I talk about strategic planning. We can't just look at crime alone, or public education alone, or economic development alone. Those three are very tightly integrated. And so we need to be kind of coming up with a strategic plan that addresses all three, plus a lot of other important issues like housing in the city. What kind of housing do we want moving forward?
In less than a minute, what kind of housing do we want as we're moving forward?
Well, I think we need to have more market rate housing, especially in the downtown area. If we're going to continue downtown, I think that's important. And we still need to make sure that the people with the most need, have the housing that they need. So it's a tough call, but I think overall, Haverhill's pretty fair. We're about at 10% in terms of low-income housing, which is the state requirement.
Right.
So we do meet that. But I just think we need more balance in Haverhill. And so, for example, I believe we need
15 seconds. Go ahead.
I believe that we need good jobs at all levels, right? But the one area that we've been extremely weak in are the higher paying and higher skilled jobs. We just haven't gone out there to get them. If you do that, right, you bring in business and it helps everybody, because
And everything else follows along.
everything follows along.
That'll have to be the last word. Thank you very much, John Michitson, running for re-election to the
Thank
Haverhill
you
City
very
Council.
much.
We'll be
Frank.
back in just a minute. I hope that this program has been a point of reference for you. And until next time, my name is Frank Novak, and thanks very much for watching. And remember to vote on November 7th.